And, you know, the league do seem to be taking quite a firm stance on them this year, don't they? So,
yeah, well, they've taken a firm stance kind of as a result of the outcome of the tackle, I sort of think. I think,
yeah,
which I'm not objecting to people getting bans for these sort of things, but I'd rather ban them when people get injured consistently, or ban them for consistent long periods for any type of this tackle.
yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it?
It's a really hard one for the officials on the day to assess, isn't it? Because they're not, most of these quote unquote crushers, most of them, Brett Ferris on Oliver Gildart a few years ago is the example of the ones that are deliberate. This one, most of them do seem unfortunate, and at the very worst, a strong end of careless, maybe a little bit of now they're starting to judge it maybe a bit more reckless, that we're more educated on these types of tackles now, and that's maybe where
I think part of the problem was the fact that there were the three men in the tackle, and I think therefore you sort of run out of bits of body to grab, don't you, as the defender?
Yeah, I mean, the Sky commentators talked about the technique, and they're far more qualified than us as fans who don't play the game ourselves to talk about the technique. And they sort of talked about how the way Smithies had got himself around the arms kind of almost would have meant the fact that Smithies was going to continue on to him without his head getting through inevitable, and that's where Smithies' technique needs to be looked at, and maybe that's where this one goes into more of a reckless over careless range. I don't know, but I'm all for people getting serious bans for things that can cause serious injuries. I don't think reactionary bans just to when people do get injured is the way to stop these things happening, but hopefully this incident highlights a technique thing that Smithies, who I think it was unfortunate that it was Smithies who was involved in this tackle after all the talk at halftime was about the headbutt, because then it might have seen that there was some malice in this tackle. There wasn't malice in this tackle at all, but he will get some time to reflect off the field, and he probably needed a rest, to be honest, even though he's had a lot of time off this year already with coronavirus. Smithies has played way more games than you would expect for a player his age, I think, since coming into the side.
Yeah, no, I think, it is a difficult one, isn't it? But I do agree that I think we want to be issuing a ban based on what's the tackle that's been committed rather than the results of it.
Yeah, definitely. But, I'm not, he's accepted guilt. He's accepted the charge, and it was a bad tackle. I think a sin bin is all the referee could do, because he wouldn't be sure on. You need to properly look at things over and over to kind of understand the nature of those kind of tackles before anything more. But yeah, I think Smithy should have been sin bin for the soft headbutt issue as well. The thing about the touch judge, this forward pass that everyone's banging on about. If people watch the footage, Paul McShane picks up the ball at dummy half on the 40-metre line, and when Mike McMeekin catches the ball is a yard in front of the 40-metre line. Now, that's what the touch judge has gone off there. Whether or not Mike McShane managed to put his arms out a metre and then throw the pass, I'm not sure. But I think there was a massive outcry over a pass that wasn't obviously not forward. And the fact that Wigan scored two sets or 2.5 sets later or whatever it was shouldn't be blamed on that one decision. But yeah, but that sort of leads us into more about the other aspects of the game outside of Morgan Smithies and the ban that he's earned from his actions. The Man of Steel points haven't come out this week yet, which is a bit of a shame, but the League Express Albert Goldthorpe points are out, and Farrell got 3 points, Gareth O'Brien got 2 points, and Ethan Havard got 1 point. I mean, you didn't see the whole game, so I guess you can't really comment too much on those things, but certainly Farrell and Havard from Wigan, and Joe Bullock as well. They were great for Wigan through this game, I thought. And O'Brien probably was the best out there for Cass. I don't know about you. Sometimes when I'm watching my team against another team in a close-ish game that Wigan are slightly better in than the other team, I find it hard to pick out standout performance from the other team.
Yeah, I think it is. It can always be tricky, can't it?
If we lose, it's easier.
Yeah, because you can attribute it to someone.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, did from any of the highlights you saw, was there anything you picked out in particular from this game as a good moment?
I mean, it was, I don't know, was it 6 minutes of highlights or something? But Havard did look to be very involved. He was the player that I probably most noticed from that.
Yeah, he was very involved. Yeah, he was outstanding. Again, he's been outstanding since him and what's his face at Saints. We'll talk about him later. Who'd you say?
Nagama?
No, the second rower, Bentley. Havard and Bentley have probably been the two young players who have really shone early on.
I wasn't sure what categories we were going for. I was just, naming Saints players.
I mean, the Joe Burgess try was probably the only real free-flowing play that stands out in my memory of the game. It sort of felt like, although the Ben Flower try, the ad-lib from Wigan on the last tackle, but interplay between Luluai and Powell was nice too. The most fluent Cass looked was when they had the extra man. Outside of that, I mean, there was the kick that Zach Hardacre messed up on, but I don't feel like Cass hugely challenged Wigan. I don't know how much of that was down to Truman picking up or re-injuring his back for the sort of latter half of the second half. I'm not sure. And would it have been different if Morgan Smithies had gone off earlier in the game rather than when he did go off? Well, potentially. I don't know. But I do think Wigan were the better team and did deserve... Well, people will say they didn't deserve to win because of the Smithies aspect to this. But if you take it just from the way the two teams played, Wigan definitely deserved to win.
Yeah, I think it's hard, isn't it? Because when you lose a player through injury and... the other person gets they lose a player for 10 minutes, but it does feel it's maybe not quite fair.
Yeah, but because of it being one of those incidents where it's hard for the match officials to see it in its completeness. I think live at the game. I don't think they had much choice. Players are lost for other injuries in games. It's a tough game. People get injured.
Yeah. No, I accept that, but it is, it's one of those. I don't suppose there's really an answer. There isn't a great...
I suppose the only other solution is actually take a 5-minute, 10-minute video referee referral where you get more people in than just the video referee, so you get match review panel members in during the game reviewing the incident, saying what they would charge it with. But
then who wants
time.
That really?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was slightly distracted by Zach Hardacre complaining about Morgan Smithies' ban.
Right. Yeah, Zach needs to lower his profile, I think, at the moment, but it's gonna. I think people will complain about it because it does feel inconsistent. Because it only feels like he's got a 4-game ban and a grade D charge for this because someone got badly injured, like in the game.
Yeah.
I do think if Clare had walked off the pitch rather than being stretchered off, this wouldn't have been a grade D, and that's the criticism I have of the reactionary nature of these things. Maybe it should have been a grade D, but if this should have been a grade D, then Joe Bullock shouldn't have just been a grade A, and other ones this weekend shouldn't have just been a grade A or a caution. I mean, we're going to get onto a ridiculous situation, what I feel is a ridiculous situation, when we do the Huddersfield Hull FC game, with a player managing to get a charge for a dangerous contact offence, but then in the same game for a tackle a minute later getting a caution for it. Makes no sense to me. That if you've already charged someone for something, why are you then just cautioning him for the same level of not the same level of offence clearly, but surely he should get a grade A minimum if he's already been charged for that. He's got a problem that a caution isn't going to resolve. I don't know. I don't get the cautions, but anyway, whatever. Morgan Smithies has got four games, and I don't think people should be more worried about James Clare being fine. I think.
My concern when it becomes this reactionary thing is, it happened. Was it back end of last season where a player, if they didn't like the tackle, they'd start rubbing their neck, and then it was almost like guaranteed you can have a penalty because it must be a crusher.
Well, we're all right because because David Fafita's refused to wear a GPS, he can't go rolling around holding his neck every time he's tackled now.
Yeah, but now is it going to be a case that a club runs on with a stretcher to take the player off rather than the player walking off because, then the disciplinary will deal harsher with the player?
I think it's all in the wash. We need to decide what type of game we want to have, don't we? And I don't think anything like that is the type of... No player will sit and watch a game where someone... And James Clare definitely didn't fake injury and no one overreacted to this situation or anything like that. It was serious. But...
Oh, yeah.
No player would want to sit and watch a game on television where a player dives, right? They'd all be on Twitter saying how ridiculous it is. So why do they do it in games themselves? Why do they try and get other people? Why do they try and get that as the competitive advantage in games? And I think that should go across the board, shouldn't it? For all these kind of things, like you say. And I'm not questioning Clare or Castleford or anything in this, by the way.
No.
Right, let's move on to... Saturday night's game, Leeds versus Salford. It was 50 points to 12 in the end, 26-0 at half-time, so Leeds were dominant throughout. Liam Moore was the referee. Do you want to take us through the stats?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, oh, that's good. I'm getting home in time to watch this match, which will be a close one. But Leeds made over 500 more metres at more than 1 metre per carry, better average game, with more breaks and more offloads, yet fewer errors. So it's always going to be a success. For Leeds, Ash Handley scored 3 tries, 1 try assist, 243 metres, 4 clean breaks. Liam Sutcliffe with 3 try assists, 174 metres. Mikola Ozleski with 1 try and 175 metres. Richie Myler with 3 tries, 8 tackle busts and 164 metres. For the losing Salford, Elliot Keir, 6 tackle busts, 137 metres, 3 offloads. Chris Wellen, 131 metres. Sebastian Ikahihifa with 42 tackles and 116 metres. Luke Yates with 58 tackles, of which 20 were mark tackles and 109 metres.
Yeah, pretty outstanding from Yates there.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose they did have a lot of time without the ball to make tackles.
And a lot of injuries, so he had to play a lot of minutes because of that as well.
Yeah. In terms of fans, Neil Muck said, "You see what happens when Salford play the snake, they get hammered."
See, that makes us know that the second half of that Muck is Keown, don't we? Because that's the Widnes fan talking.
Yeah.
We have to keep up with who's the snake in all these different fixtures. This time, it was Kevin Brown being referred to as the snake. Dr. Bob Phillips said, "There's something quite beautiful about flowing rugby in amber and blue, dusted with luck and crowned with a half-century. Myler was magnificent and Big Oz must have run half a mile for that try."
Rich Wilkinson said, "Much better from Leeds this week. However, it's evident that we are good against the weaker teams. We are miles away from Saints and Wigan. We look much better without Hurrell in the team. His errors kill us."
And Joshua's granddad said, 2 weeks off did the Devils no favours, but Kevin Brown will never be the answer to any problem. Injury to CO left Watson without any idea how to adjust his right edge. Myler showed how disorganised the defence was and how the hell was Oledzki allowed to run that far to score. I mean, let's start with that because a few people have pulled that out. Nikolai Oledzki's absolute romp through.
I had to watch the replay because I assumed that somebody must, or 3 players must have collided with each other, fallen over a blade of grass and been unable to get up. No, there was just a hole. He just ran through it.
He almost stopped, didn't he? Because it felt like he almost thought, surely this is getting pulled back for something. How's it this easy?
Yeah, he looked over his shoulder, didn't he? Like, honestly, I had to watch it several times to actually work out that nothing really had happened. It was just a try.
Yeah, just the fullback had been found in the line somehow, and but it was fun. It was a funny one to watch, that's for sure.
And just all of that green space for him to dance around in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he enjoyed that. It wasn't. I mean, of his 175 metres, that'll have been about 40 or so of them. So he put in a big performance anyway. Mikolaj Oledzki, he's a young forward. at Leeds that, kind of exemplifies that maybe they should give their young forwards a chance, because the other young forward in this game as well went over 100 metres, Tom Holroyd off the bench. So yeah, with Adam Cuthbertson getting injured as well, it's another injury for them to deal with.